On First at 9 this Thursday, the 13th of November 2025. Hidden agendas. Public funds were spent to perpetuate extremism, accuses the president. Pledges there will be no room for racism under his government. Rigged. Tender process for government vehicles favours a single company. Opposition accuses government of foul play. Detained. Maldives detains Sri Lankan fishermen arrested alongside a drug haul, delaying extradition.
Kalin baby soap රුපියල් 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on Sri Lanka's premium news provider, Derana News Channel. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story this evening. Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna MP D.V. Chanaka alleges that the tender for the purchase of cabs for the public service is structured in a manner that favours a single company. The MP made this allegation during the second reading debate on the budget. With that, here's a look at some of the views expressed during the budget debate today.
While listening to the budget speech for over 4.5 hours, I was reminded of the wall of death we see at carnivals. When the motorbike starts, the roar echoes through the carnival, drawing people to watch. But at the end, everyone says that despite the noise, the bike was just circling the same spot. The public says the same about the budget. Even though it lasted 4 hours, it went in circles without real progress. Between September 2024 and September 2025, we enlarged the tax net by 300,000. This is a positive development, regardless of whether it was said by the IMF or you. Perhaps the IMF suggested it, but you were unable to achieve it. We accomplished this task with the consent of the public. Now the opposition claims that since we collected the money, we must spend it. Yes, we will spend it, but responsibly, without harming the government or the economy. There's a Russian proverb, Vaskar listens but keeps eating. Likewise, we continue even amidst disruptions. I would like to remind everyone about the online loan scheme. Himaya Sewandi, a resident of Attanagalla, committed suicide after being caught in this scheme. This is only one case, but it highlights the dangers. I urge the government to respond tomorrow morning and outline the measures being taken to eradicate this illegal online loan mafia. We have seen continuous discussions regarding housing projects. I observed Dr. Harsha De Silva presenting data in Parliament and his frustration at figuring out how to build a house with just 1 million rupees. When we allocate resources to the right individuals, they gain support from family, friends, local businesses and their communities. On some occasions, the NPP has provided voluntary support. This system has succeeded. Do not judge the life of villagers solely based on life in Colombo. We welcome the government's allocation of 5 billion rupees for estate communities. However, clarification is needed. Is this incentive provided only if workers attend all 25 days, or will it be given even if they attend just one day? Some opposition MPs, including Namal Rajapaksa and Nizam Kariyappa, oppose this, claiming the government is distributing public funds to estates. I remind everyone that estate workers have contributed to this country for 200 years. If not for them, who deserves this support? We would support this initiative and thank the President for it. The JVP in 1988 and this budget have no connection. Previously, we faced extreme exchange rate volatility. Since coming into power, we have stabilized exchange rates and there is no major volatility now. We face a major issue with the tender process for importing cabs. International tenders require a 42-day bidding window. A major criticism of Sri Lanka is that we make specifications for tenders. For instance, specifications require vehicles to be between 2,500 to 3,000 cc, excluding two major companies in Sri Lanka that only have 2,400 cc vehicles. Another requirement mandates 3 service stations outside Colombo operating for 10 years. Only one company meets this. This tender appears designed to favour a specific company. If President Ranil Dissanayake were in the opposition, he would call this tender designed to steal 1 million per cab, totaling 1.7 billion rupees. If our communities receive benefits and someone opposes them, we do not support that opposition. Yes, the party is against it, which means there may still be votes in favour for the government. We must decide tomorrow. If the government mandates that the incentive is only for workers attending all 25 days, we do not accept that. Our proposal is a 200 rupee daily incentive for attendance. We encourage workers to come to work on all 25 days, but the condition is that they must receive the 200 rupee incentive for any day they attend, regardless of timing.
ඔබේ සම හඳුනාගෙන ඖෂධීය ශාකසාරමේ Forever face wash එකක් භාවිතා කරන්න.
අප වෙනුවෙන් කැපවූ ලංකාවේ අපේ අංක 1 dialogue.
The inaugural budget of the Dodangoda Pradeshya Sabha, governed by the National People's Power, was defeated today. Meanwhile, the budget of the Kuliyapitiya Urban Council, where a coalition of opposition parties including Samagi Jana Balawege holds power, was passed despite NPP councillors staging a walkout. Budget presentations for local government institutions for the year 2026 are currently underway. The budget of the Dodangoda Pradeshya Sabha, governed by the National People's Power, was presented to the council today. All 12 NPP councillors voted in favour, while the 13 opposition councillors voted against it, resulting in the budget being defeated by one vote. Meanwhile, the budget of the Kuliyapitiya Urban Council, where a coalition of opposition parties led by Samagi Jana Balawege hold power, was also presented today. The budget was passed despite the NPP councillors staging a walkout from the chamber. Similarly, the budget of the Mahava Pradeshya Sabha in Kurunegala under NPP leadership was passed today. A councillor from the Freedom People's Front and an independent councillor aligned with the NPP voted in favour, ensuring the passage of the budget. President Anura Dissanayake claims that public funds were spent in the past to fund both Sinhalese and Islamic extremism. Speaking at the JVP's 36th annual commemoration of November Heroes Day, the President assured that there will be no perpetuation of racism under the present administration.
The JVP's 36th annual commemoration of November Heroes Day was held at Vihara Mahadevi Open Air Theatre this evening under the patronage of President Anura Dissanayake. During the event, the party's founder, late Rohana Vijayveera, and others who laid down their lives for the party were commemorated.
In 2021, when international rating agencies warned that our country's economy was at risk, the then central bank governor and finance minister claimed that there were international conspiracies against the national economy. However, they were unable to predict what would happen next. Doctors began leaving the country and hospitals faced shortages of specialists, as no one could predict what was coming. Keep in mind that this was the state our country was in. Today we can say that within a year we have established an economy and a political environment where we can predict what will happen tomorrow. The government will continue to stand firm on those predictions. Many point out that debt repayments must begin by 2028, and so it will. We would like to emphasize that not only we will begin debt repayments, but also build an economy capable of doing so. On the other hand, we have strengthened the rule of law. Beyond the drug menace, a criminal underworld had been built around it. This criminal state had infiltrated the legitimate government. We have made a firm decision to eliminate this criminal state. When I met with army intelligence officers, it was made clear that both Islamic and Sinhalese extremisms had been funded from the same account and both with public funds. They exploited racism for their own survival. However, we would like to make it clear that we will not allow racism to continue in this country. Now small groups are gathering against us. What do they have in common? They once held positions of power and ministerial portfolios, and now they have lost their privileges. Without exception, they face legal action, and conveniently, they tend to be hospitalized during those proceedings. They may find satisfaction in their own actions, but there is no possibility of overthrowing this government. We will continue to move forward and develop the country.
Meanwhile, the Frontline Socialist Party's annual commemoration of November Heroes Day was held at the Delkanda Fair premises in Nugegoda.
The Government Medical Officers Association accuses the government of not making sufficient budgetary allocations for the healthcare sector, blaming government inattention for medicine shortages and overcrowded hospitals. The association made these claims during a discussion with the opposition leader.
The Government Medical Officers Association met opposition leader Sajith Premadasa today, where the association requested that Parliament pay attention to issues within the health sector, saying that they have not been addressed through the budget.
Today there's a shortage of even the most essential medicines. However, nobody is bringing this matter to light because if it is brought up, the doctor will be subjected to a disciplinary action. The matter will not be resolved. There is medical equipment, but the most necessary equipment is missing. Wards are overly overcrowded with 3 or 4 times the number of patients they are supposed to accommodate. The doctor's cadre has not been revised since 2015. The budget has not addressed any of these issues, nor has any funding been allocated. We have decided to launch union action from next Monday onwards. The government has placed a tax burden on the people, even surpassing IMF targets. The government revenue target was 15% of GDP. However, the revenue collected amounted to 15.9% of the GDP. The government saved 280 million rupees through it. Why can't they allocate these 287 million rupees to minimize brain drain and provide medicine and essential equipment to hospitals? The primary balance has surpassed the target. This was achieved by cutting off funding for the healthcare system. We will bring up these true facts when budgetary allocations for healthcare are being debated in Parliament with the aim of securing funding.
Do what you do, let the world look up to you. Shoot what you see, be who you wanna be. Search with a smile, create your own style. Gemini live, make moments come alive. Be anywhere, rock anytime. With awesome AI by your side. Be anywhere, rock anytime. Be brilliant, be always intelligent. Download fast, stream it all night. One tap, move, everything feel right. Snap it clean, edit like a pro. Smarter with Gemini, let the magic flow.
Introducing Samsung Galaxy A17 5G. The power to be always intelligent.
මූසහ ෆීනික්ස් නත්තල් ෆියස්ටා නොවැම්බර් 13 සිට 16 දක්වා අනුරාධපුර ස්පොට්නික් ක්‍රීඩා පිටියේදී.
With that, here's a look at some thoughts shared in the political arena today regarding the upcoming opposition rally on November 21st.
We did not initiate this program. Another group started it. Afterwards, they requested that we join the event. Our attendance is still under discussion. However, our preliminary decision is not to participate. We will inform you of the outcome of the discussion soon. Whenever the government goes against its citizens, the opposition is always ready to unite. There is no issue with that. There is still time for the opposition to take to the streets and march against the government. This event is being organised with Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna as the figurehead. Sambagi Jana Balawege members are joining us at the grassroots. Not only SJB members but even some who voted for the NPP are taking part in discussions. They are even more eager than us to correct the mistakes that were made. What they are requesting is that they be given power, Namal Rajapaksa be elected president, and that the road be paved for Udaya Gambampila to obtain a ministerial portfolio. The defeated members of the UNP are asking the citizens for a way to regain power or at least to receive ministerial positions. Therefore, events such as the upcoming Janahanda protest on the 21st are nothing but cries for help by the UNP and SLPP to reclaim power.
Since
the rally has already been scheduled for the 21st, the opposition has to go through with it. Samagi Jana Balawege, the main opposition, is not participating in this event. Neither are former presidents. Under such circumstances, they will only be able to hold a small gathering on that day. If we participate in November Heroes Day commemorations, we must also take part in the LTTE's Mahavir celebrations for Velupille Prabhakaran. Both are recognized as terrorist movements. This is also not a suitable time to celebrate the late Rohana Vijayveera. President Anura Dissanayake has adopted policies that are even more capitalist in nature than those of former President J.R. Jayawardena. If Vijayveera were alive to see this, he would wonder what has happened to them. Therefore, instead of attending November Heroes Day commemorations, it would be better for the government to pay respects to the statue of late former President J.R. Jayawardena.
Health authorities reveal that 1 in every 5 Sri Lankan adults suffer from diabetes. During a press briefing today, health officials also noted that 1/3 of adult diabetes patients also suffer from diabetes-related eye diseases.
According to the latest data, a 73% surge is observed in the number of diabetes patients worldwide. It has been identified that 1 in every 9 adults in the world suffer from diabetes. In Sri Lanka, diabetes is prevalent among 23 to 30% of adults, which means 1 in every 5 adults suffers from diabetes. A third of them have an eye disease caused by diabetes. 11% will go blind if proper treatment is not received. Diabetes specifically impacts the human eye. Any damages to the eye will especially impact the working community. Blindness caused by diabetes impairs the country's productivity, with the country losing 923 million rupees of income annually. If you visit the eye hospital right now, most of the previously mentioned 11% of patients will be there. They are not old. Most of them are between 40 and 50 years of age. Most importantly, this disease can be prevented, and there is no reason for these patients to go blind. It can be prevented by controlling the disease from its early stages through measures such as alteration of diet. Even if it couldn't be prevented, still there are other methods to cure the disease at its early stage. If you have diabetes, it must be controlled. You must also consult a doctor and undergo an eye examination.
Maldivian security forces have obtained detention orders against the 5 Sri Lankan fishermen arrested with a stock of crystal methamphetamine and heroin, further delaying their extradition. In the meantime, the investigation into the stock of crystal methamphetamine seized at Kirin the beach yesterday has been handed over to the Police Narcotics Bureau on the instructions of the Inspector General of Police.
Following a joint operation by the Sri Lanka Navy, Sri Lanka Police and Maldivian security forces and police, a Sri Lankan multi-day fishing trawler named Avishkaputa was seized in Maldivian waters. The trawler contained over 355 kilograms of heroin and crystal methamphetamine, and the 5 fishermen on board were arrested. Officials from the Sri Lanka Navy and the Police Narcotics Bureau recently travelled to the Maldives to extradite the arrested fishermen. However, it has been reported that Maldivian security forces have obtained 30-day detention orders against the suspects, preventing their return to Sri Lanka. Accordingly, the Sri Lankan security officials in the Maldives are scheduled to return to the island within the next 2 days. Meanwhile, the investigation into the stock of crystal methamphetamine seized yesterday at Kirin the beach in a joint operation by several teams from the Western Province North Crime Division and the Tangol Police Division has been handed over to the Police Narcotics Bureau. Police sources indicate that the investigation was transferred on the instructions of the Inspector General of Police and that steps will be taken to hand over the suspects to the Narcotics Bureau. Police have obtained permission to detain the 8 suspects for 7 days for interrogation. The suspects were apprehended yesterday at Kirin the beach with 329 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine that had been brought into the country by sea. The key suspect revealed to police that the narcotics were brought to land under a contract of 500,000 rupees by an individual who previously resided in Dondra and moved to Colombo. The street value of the seized narcotics is estimated at 3.94 billion rupees. A high-ranking police source indicated that Dubai Run Malli, who is thought to have dispatched the consignment to Sri Lanka, was responsible for transporting the narcotics belonging to large-scale drug trafficker Harak Kata within the island. Police suspect the stock of narcotics was imported into the island by an individual named Priyankara, who is part of the drug trafficking network of underworld kingpin Angoda Lokka and associates of Dematagoda Chaminda, who is serving a death sentence.
A high-level meeting was held at Parliament recently to review strategies for combating illegal fishing and poaching in Sri Lankan waters. The session was co-chaired by Minister of Fisheries Ramalingam Chandrasekhar, Minister of Justice Harshana Nanayakkara and Deputy Minister of Defence Aruna Jayasekara. Discussions focused on preventive measures, law enforcement actions and interagency cooperation to address emerging challenges such as poaching by local and foreign vessels, smuggling disguised as fishing, unauthorized radio frequency use and deliberate disabling of vessel monitoring systems by local boats. The Defence Ministry said participants emphasised the need to strengthen maritime law enforcement, enhance coordination among agencies and implement technological solutions for real-time vessel monitoring. With that, here's a look at more local news across the island in brief.
The committee appointed to review and make recommendations to repeal the Prevention of Terrorism Act has officially handed over its report to Minister of Justice and National Integration Harshan Nanayakkara. The committee, chaired by President's Counsel Riensi Arsikularatna, was appointed to study the repeal of the PTA and propose appropriate legislative measures while obtaining feedback from civil society organisations and international institutions. The Justice Minister previously asserted that any new legislation introduced after repealing the PTA must be capable of addressing global terrorism challenges while upholding constitutionally guaranteed human rights and freedom of expression in line with international standards. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court fixed dates for the consideration of the fundamental rights petition filed seeking an order to recover the compensation allegedly obtained unlawfully by several former ministers and members of parliament for their homes and properties torched during the public unrest which occurred across the island on May 9, 2022. Accordingly, the petition will be taken up for consideration on January 28, 2026. In other local news, the Colombo Additional Magistrate today issued a warrant for the arrest of former Executive Director of the National Lotteries Board, Tusitha Hallolua, over his failure to appear before the court over an incident involving a false complaint. Hallolua filed a complaint claiming that a group of people had opened fire on the vehicle he was travelling in the Nara Henpita area.
Welcome back to First at 9. Gold prices in Sri Lanka have risen following a significant increase in the price of gold in the world market. The price of gold crossed $4,212 an ounce in the global market today. In response to the surge, the price of gold in Sri Lanka has risen by around 10,000 rupees. Accordingly, the price of a 22-carat gold sovereign in the Peta gold market has risen to 310,800 rupees from 301,500 yesterday. Meanwhile, the price of a 24-carat gold sovereign, which stood at 326,000 rupees yesterday, has increased to 336,000 today. Central Depository Systems Private Limited, a subsidiary of the Colombo Stock Exchange, has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Ceylon Bank PLC to streamline the opening of inward investment accounts for non-resident Sri Lankans and foreign investors. Under the partnership, investors can request IIAs when opening CDS accounts through the CSE mobile application, with essential applicant information shared between CDS and the bank to ensure a smooth and compliant account setup. CDS, which acts as the depository and custodian for securities traded on the CSE, said the collaboration is part of ongoing efforts to strengthen market infrastructure and improve investor accessibility. This initiative aims to boost investment and engagement in the Sri Lankan capital market. The Colombo Bourse closed in negative territory today as a result of price losses in counters such as Sampath Bank, HNB Bank and John Keells Holdings. The benchmark All Share Price Index dropped 0.84% to close at 23,461.46, while the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 slipped 1.52% to end the session at 6,458.15. Market turnover crossed 6.4 billion rupees. The banking sector was the top contributor to turnover, followed by the materials sector. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers, offloading shares worth 1.06 billion rupees. With that, here's a look at today's foreign exchange rates. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.